It's freezing cold in Delhi. Hello everyone, welcome to Coding Decoded. For those who don't know me, let me just introduce myself. I'm Sanchit Dudeja, have a total of 10 plus years of experience building and architecting scalable microservices. Also, I'm a subject matter expert in everything related to backend technology. From the video's title, you would have understood that it is all gonna be about Kafka. But why Kafka? Guys, first of all, lots of thank you for the support that you have shown in the previous videos on Redis Auth and on popular demand. Out of all the comments, more than 50% of the comments stated that you guys need video on Kafka. And how can I say no to you? Now you must be thinking there are already so many videos available about Kafka on YouTube. Why not to go there and watch them instead of this one? Guys, I'll be honest, the amount of depth that comes with experience, nobody on YouTube will ever be able to teach you in such a manner which I'm going to tell you today. And trust my words, if you'll watch this video till the end, the concept clarity that you're going to get will be phenomenal and it's going to stay with you forever. So don't miss it out. Without any further ado, let's focus our attention onto the topics that are going to be covered in this video. And guys, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done it yet. A lot of effort goes in creating these videos, and I truly appreciate your support over here. So the first thing that we're going to cover is why is Kafka needed? Most of the YouTubers won't tell you this because they themselves are not clear why do we actually need Kafka? And what was the need to bring in a system like Kafka? You yourself will understand it today. What is Kafka? So, on a very high level, we're going to talk about how Kafka actually works and what are the different nuances associated with it. Why do we actually need it? How does it operate? And how can we break down Kafka into different models? Internals of Kafka, producer, consumer, topics, partitions, offset. Finally, we'll go into the installation and dry run part of it. Once we are through the dry run, what are we going to do? We're going to code it out in a Spring Boot application. This is going to be super amazing because you will see how a veteran from the industry write codes of production level quality. And finally, we'll talk about the advantages and use cases where you guys can actually apply this concept in your real life. And in the last, we're going to talk about, I'll give you the most important and interesting part, an assignment and a mini project. So if you are ready to follow along till the very end, then be part of this assignment and I am going to review this out in my next video. So zarur karna guys, take the pledge along with me that yes, I am ready for this challenge and consider it as a mini project so as to solidify your conceptual knowledge. I'll talk more about the project towards the end, but for now, let's focus our attention onto understanding what is the need of Kafka and how actually it is solving the problem. For this, let's take a hypothetical scenario that you along with your friends thought of opening an application similar to Zomato and Swiggy that helps deliver food. You have built a system which has three major components. The first one is the application server that is responsible for receiving the API calls related to placing the order and retrieving the placed orders. It is backed by a database wherein all the orders that have been placed through your system gets written. And the last component being client applications. So the first one is the desktop application, the next one is the mobile application, and the third one being the browser application through which the end users can interact and place their orders. So whenever a user goes in your any of these applications and try to place the order, what's going to happen? The API call will be made onto your application server and the order will get placed and gets written in the DB. If you analyze this closely, you will see that everything happening over here happens in the sync mode. At the time when the API call is made, the information gets written in the database. And once this information is written in the database, then only 201 OK created response for while placing the new order is returned back to the client application. Your application was performing really well. The SLAs of your APIs are pretty low and everything was going pretty smooth. Your user base started to grow. 2 to 3 months down the lane, 31st December came in and at 9 p.m., there was high influx of traffic. You tell me what's going to happen. You did not scale the system to handle such a high load. Neither you were expecting this to happen, although you wanted more and more users to be on your application. However, your backend system wasn't scaled enough to handle such a huge incoming load. You tell me what's going to happen. If you bombard your web server with high influx of API calls bombarding your system, if everything happens in sync mode, your database will not be ready to handle such a huge traffic. It's definitely going to crash. and at 9:15 p.m. your entire system will go down. It's so bad from the business perspective, isn't it? If you think like an engineer for a second, you're gonna say, to solve this problem, why not bring asynchronous workflows, and instead of making things in a synchronous manner, let's bring in some latency, but the system will always be available to handle the incoming traffic. If we can do something about this, why not to go ahead with it? I know it's a trade-off between latency and availability. What you are doing right now is choosing availability over latency. By making this workflow asynchronous, the latency is definitely going to increase. However, the system will always be available. It's not that bad in case when there's high influx of traffic, isn't it? At least your orders will get placed. तो क्या करना चाहिए अब दिखते हैं. We have to tweak our algorithm in order to make this asynchronous in nature. What we are going to do, whenever the end user goes onto your application to place the order, the API call will still be made onto the server, and we will bring in another system. Let's call it X for now, a black box kind of a thing, which will accept this request from the server. Another API call will be made from the server onto X. Once this information has been pushed onto the system X, the server will say that it has successfully accepted the request and return the status 202 with a job ID. The clients can further poll this job ID to get the status whether their order was successfully placed or not. And in the backend, we will have consumers or workers kind of a model which will poll from this system X, retrieve the events, and do the processing needed for placing the order. In case of order have been successfully placed, the status in your DB will be updated to success. Otherwise, the status will be updated to failed, and this information will be appropriately reflected when clients are making the polling calls to get the latest status of the job ID. Understood? And this black box is nothing but Kafka. Let's do a quick recap of what I just told. Whenever there's a call from the client machine onto your server, the server will respond back to the client with 202 status code and a job ID. Internally, it's gonna push the event onto the Kafka system. We will have a separate worker running asynchronously on a different machine, which is continuously polling through this Kafka and retrieving events from it, doing processing as an independent isolated operation, wherein once the worker job is done, it will push the data onto the database telling that it has completed its work. Parallelly, on the client machine, using this job ID which was passed, a job polling will be done by the clients in order to get the latest status of this job, which the server is gonna fetch the data from the database in case that job gets done. So consider these are like two separate processes working independently of one another, one at the client side and one at the worker side where the interaction with Kafka is being done. I know you must be having some doubts how Kafka is able to manage everything so seamlessly, but I promise we are gonna get into the details of it and clarify each and every doubt of yours when we'll go and have a look at the LLD approach of solving this out. But for now, from the HLD perspective, this is how asynchronous workflows operate in a real life example in this industry. Everything goes asynchronous, the interaction of the worker with Kafka and of that of client with the server. The server returns a job ID and it's the responsibility of the client to keep on polling on that job ID till the time it doesn't give a definite status. Guys, now it's the time to go one level deep into Kafka, decoding the intricacies of it. From the previous example of HLD, you would have got some hint about Kafka. But if you have to categorize it out, what Kafka is all about, it's the unification of two things. One, pub/sub model, publisher subscriber model, and other one, queue with partitioning. So I have put an asterisk sign over partitioning. I'll explain each and every bit of it. But from the gist of it, consider it's a unification of two principles of system design. One is pub/sub model and other one is queuing model. If you are new to system design, don't worry. Let me explain each one of them in granular detail with the real life examples. So here I go. Do you remember your childhood days of school time? What used to happen during the recess? The peon of the school used to ring the bell and each and every student studying in the school of each and every class used to come out during that period, and as soon as this bell used to rung, uh, everyone would get so much excited for the food, for the lunch, especially at noon time. I still remember those days. I never used to eat the food that I used to get from my home. Rather, I used to eat my best friend's food and vice versa. तो बहुत ही fun period होता था. But why am I telling you this? This is a classic example of pub sub model. So let's decode this. The peon over here is acting as the publisher. Sharp at noon time, peon comes and rings the bell. That it's lunch time. This act of him doing this can be compared with the publisher pushing a notification into the Kafka system that it's time for the break. This event that it's break time is being received by different subscribers of this topic, which in this case would be the students studying in that particular school. So students of section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, and all of them. What are they going to do? They're going to open their bags, get the lunchbox out, unlock it, have food, and then once they're done with their lunch, they will close the lunchbox and put it back in their bag. So this used to be a regular process at school during lunchtime, and I still remember those days. I never used to have food that I used to get from my particular home. Rather, I used to eat others' food and vice versa. तो बहुत fun period था. If you carefully analyze this out, these students of different classes are acting as the subscribers of the topic break because they're continuously looking for that, whether the break event has happened or not. And as soon as they get notified it's break time, they start doing processing independently, which is actually a classic subscriber slash consumer model. अच्छा लगा ना? I know you wouldn't have heard about this example ever, but yeah, I could connect with this very well. Now let's go to the next part of it, the queuing model. Remember, on sports day, whenever there used to be prizes being distributed, what used to happen? Students who have won in that sports day get lined up in long queues, and as soon as the first one starts the line, others follow. So it's first one, first out kind of a model. FIFO. We know this from DSA concept. And the same concept applies within the consumer. So in case I have to create a line of all the students of a particular class, then whosoever joins the line, everyone will form a queue kind of a thing. Roll number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So consider this as the sequential queue that is being generated for the students of any particular classroom on sports day so as to get different gifts and prizes. If you have understood these two models, then you have understood the maximum concept of Kafka because the same conceptual knowledge applies in that. How? अभी भी सिखाता हूँ. धीरे धीरे समझ आ जाएगा. I hope you liked the example. In today's world, there is no IT company, big tech, small tech startup that doesn't use Kafka. It is core concept that every engineer who is involved in building technology should know. And that's why this video becomes very important. In the subsequent portion, we will see how to install Kafka, how does it behave, what are its nuances, how do we code Kafka in a Spring Boot application as both publisher as well as subscriber. So do watch it till the very end. Now you must be wondering what makes Kafka so special that the industry simply can't live without it. Let's talk about different features of Kafka that makes it so powerful. The first one is scale, which is of utmost importance. Kafka has the ability to process millions of records per second, and this is what makes it so beautiful. It offers persistence, that means all the events are written to the disk. And since events are written onto the disk, it guarantees no data loss. That means event 1 pushed into Kafka will always be available for each and every consumer to be processed. It offers you the ability to replay events. No other system like ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ, if you are aware of, provides you with such capabilities. The next one is high throughput, which we talked about, scale at a super low latency. Super low latency. Had this not been there, then Kafka would not have been so popular. And the last one is fault tolerant, which means that if one cluster of Kafka goes down, there's always some backup available to fill in for that missing cluster. That means the system overall becomes fault tolerant. अगर एक के साथ गड़बड़ होती है तो उसका backup always available so as to make sure that your system always behaves the way it should. We will talk about each and every feature of Kafka in detail, but those who are already aware of queue-based models like ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ, messaging queues, then you must be wondering कि उन दोनों में difference क्या है? एक बार आप बता दो. Definitely, guys. So here is a grid which I have created. Let's walk through this grid. The first one says that the queue-based model, ActiveMQ and RabbitMQ, it doesn't work on publisher subscriber, is queue-based, which the definition itself means. Persistence, stores messages on disks, typically memory only. That means it's in memory. Throughput, millions of records per second, scales horizontally. RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ, thousands of messages per second, pretty low scale. Latency, किसकी ज़्यादा better है? Latency would be better for ActiveMQ because it is in memory. This is not involved, it's optional. That means the processing rate is very, very low. It's 10 to the minus 6, while here it is 10 to the minus 3 seconds. Consumer model, it's pull based, it's push based. एक से तुम events pull करते हो, एक पे event डाले जाते हैं. Ordering is guaranteed per partition, not guaranteed in the cluster. The sequence of events is not guaranteed in Active RabbitMQ, while it is guaranteed in Kafka. Use case, high volume event streaming. High volume event streaming like Netflix. Millions of users watch Netflix every day, and हर user का कितना उसने देख लिया video, it has to be pushed on a very high rate because it happens across the globe. Which system are you gonna use? Kafka. Whereas if your use case is short-lived messages, then queues, ActiveMQ and RabbitMQ is a way to go. Let's take an example from real life for help you understanding how Kafka is used and where to apply it. Consider you tried booking a cab using on Uber, you entered your source location, your destination location, and your driver got connected. From that point till the termination of your journey, you will be getting notifications wherever the cab is moving. Also, you can share your trip details with your near and dear ones. They'll be also getting those notifications. How does it work? Let's take this scenario that you booked the cab and you got the details of the driver who has been assigned to you. From that instance itself, in the mobile application of Uber from the driver side, as the cab moves, every second a notification, an API call is made onto the Uber server. API call is made. This API call will help register the information about the driver's location. And the old school approach of solving this problem would be writing this information to the database of Uber. It would work. Obviously, it can work. It's an old school methodology. But the moment scale comes into picture, this system is gonna crash. What comes to play? Kafka comes to play. That think of the case, millions of cabs are getting booked at each instant of time. The database will not be able to handle such a high traffic. You cannot write this information directly onto the database because every second the driver's location would change and millions of users are involved in this process. Kafka is there to help you. This is an ideal problem statement for Kafka to handle. What's going to happen? The API call will still be made onto the Uber server, but instead of writing this information onto the database, the gateway will help write this information onto Kafka. So the information will be published onto the Kafka clusters using the API route of Uber servers. And a consumer will be there of Kafka, which will help process these events and push the information onto the client using the push notifications. So we have two things over here. The API call is made onto the Uber servers. It then further pushes the information onto Kafka cluster. We have Kafka consumers, which processes these events one by one. And on each process, a notification is sent out to the respective rider who is gonna receive the location of the updated driver. Something like this. I hope you enjoyed this example. Now let me tell you when to use Kafka. Kafka is used for real-time analytics like Uber line tracking, which we just discussed. Event-driven microservice like Netflix user activity pipeline. You know, whenever you are viewing any video on Netflix, the Netflix server gets to register this information up till what instance have you viewed the video. And whenever you come back and try to view it again, The Regex server will intelligently open it from that point itself. How does it get to know? It gets to know about this through event-driven architecture, which is built on top of Kafka, on similar lines what we talked about in the Uber application. Big data ingestion like LinkedIn activity streaming. So these are prominent examples which I could think of are based out of Kafka with so much depth. Guys, this is the difference that comes when an experienced person teaches you something. There are a lot of videos available on YouTube on Kafka, but all of them focus on the how part. Nobody tells you the depth, nobody tells you the concepts in detail, and this is where experience comes to play. I hope you're enjoying it so far. So do continue till the very end. Going ahead, let's talk about the high-level architecture of Kafka, HLD. So what happens whenever you want to integrate Kafka in an application, there will be two major processes. One is pushing the event onto the Kafka cluster, and the application code which is responsible for pushing this information onto the Kafka cluster is known as producer. So it makes an API call to push the event, and this event gets registered inside the Kafka cluster. Similarly, there's another process that you have to write wherein the consumers that are going to receive those events will be written. And these consumers will do the processing as what you direct them to do. Also remember that this is not a push model. This is a pull model where the consumers at a fixed frequency ask the Kafka cluster whether you have information present for me to process or not, whether there are pending events present for the Kafka consumers to process the events. And in case the events are pending, then the Kafka cluster returns the consumers those events and they internally process those out. A very obvious question that would come to your mind would be, what about the case where the application code wants to send out multiple notifications of different types onto the Kafka cluster? Event A, event B, event C. उन cases में, how does this contract gets established from the producer onto the consumer? Guys, topic come into play. A topic is a contract through which each producer talks and sends out notifications, the events onto the Kafka cluster. Similarly, the consumers, while asking the Kafka cluster, passes this topic name onto it so that the events corresponding to that particular topic are only returned. तो ये टॉपिक एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एस्टैब्लिश करता है बिटवीन द प्रोड्यूसर एंड द कंज्यूमर ऑन अ वेरी हाई लेवल. दिस इज हाउ Kafka operates. So far, we have talked about publisher, we have talked about topic, we have talked about consumer. And going ahead, we'll talk about consumer groups, partitions, brokers, cluster, event details like retention and offset, and the role of zookeeper in Kafka operation. So guys, it's time to go a little deep on a very high level. These are like primary pillars of Kafka, and these are the internal details how Kafka actually operates. Let's break Kafka architecture into two parts. The first part is this one, the interaction between the producer with Kafka cluster, and then we will see the interaction between Kafka cluster and consumers. These are like two independent processes, and they have no correlation except for the contract where you define the topic, nothing else. Otherwise, publisher has no idea how consumers are behaving, and consumers have no idea how publishers are behaving. You have your application code, which would act as a publisher for sending out events onto the Kafka cluster. And let's assume that this publisher corresponds to the topic A. Similarly, another logic unit application code could be responsible for publishing events for the topic B. And while registering the event onto the Kafka system, Kafka cluster plays a crucial role. It is onto the Kafka cluster that the event gets stored. And inside the cluster, there could be multiple brokers. Here in this case, I have taken 3, broker 1, broker 2, broker 3. Topic A is primarily held at broker 1. And while sending the notifications, the events onto the broker 1, the broker 1 will reciprocate with an offset ID, which would help in tracking the event that was pushed onto the Kafka system. So this offset ID plays a very crucial role so as to track what event was pushed onto the system, and it helps at the consumption time कि कितने offsets consume हुए और कितने offsets अभी pending पड़े. Now you must be thinking, what is an actual difference between Kafka cluster and Kafka broker? Guys, a broker is a solo processor, while a cluster will have a group of brokers inside it. It's like a teamwork. A cluster will comprise of multiple processors, and those processors would be broker 1, broker 2, and broker 3. अब इनका use case क्या है? Do you remember in the initial slides I also talked about the fact that Kafka has fault tolerance in it. That means if one broker goes down, the other one will comes to play and rescue and start processing from that instance itself. तब अब और ये होता कैसे है? It's very important concept wherein you will understand that in brokers itself, there's master slave architecture. For example, here let's take the case that for all the events corresponding to topic A, the broker 1 is acting as the master, while broker 2 for topic A would act as the replication. Replicas. When the events gets written onto the Kafka cluster, from the master, it gets transferred onto the replicas as well. In this way, in case the master goes down or one replica goes down, the other one comes to rescue to fill in for that missing node. For topic B, broker 2 is acting as the master, while the other two would act as a replication. Similarly, for topic 3, broker 3 is acting as the master, while other two will act as the replicas. See. I hope you got the concept. अब इसको मैनेज कौन करता है कि एक नोड जा रहा है, the other one is in the HLD slide. There was another term mentioned named zookeeper. Where does zookeeper come into play? Zookeeper is the brain of Kafka. It helps Kafka allocate events to appropriate brokers. It maintains which broker is becoming unavailable due to any mishap and which broker is gonna fill in for it. It maintains how data will be replicated across different brokers 1, 2 and 3 and so on. तो जितना भी state management का work होता है, Zookeeper helps in that. By virtue of which Kafka is able to attain high scalability with reliance. Because data can never be lost in Kafka. Now comes another important concept of topics, which is partitioning. Guys, we know about data sharding, and partitioning is a similar concept in Kafka that helps you segregate different partitions for a specific topic so that those can be processed independently. What I'm trying to say, let's take an example. We have the Uber application, and let's assume you want all the Uber events generated in United States to land in a specific partition or in a specific shard. What are you going to do? Let's use 0 index for the USA, 1 for India, and 2 for Europe. By maintaining partitioning for different countries, what we are doing, we are making sure that the traffic from the USA will not be impacted by the traffic from India or traffic from Europe. All these three can operate independently. अभी टॉपिक कौन डिसाइड करता है कि किस पार्टीशन पे जाएगा? Guys, while sending out the notification onto the Kafka cluster, you can tell which topic, which partition will this event gonna be reside at. It depends on a parameter named key, which is part of the event payload. Whatever information you want to push onto the Kafka cluster, along with that, you need to send out a parameter named key, which will help in partitioning the data appropriately. कैसे काम करता है अभी बताता हूँ. For a second, let's assume that this key is not sent, and you have 3 partitions, 0, 1 and 2. Kafka cluster will see, since the key is not passed, it will allocate the events in a round robin fashion across these clusters. तो पहला इवेंट आया 0th पार्टीशन पे allocate हो गया, सेकंड इवेंट आया फर्स्ट पार्टीशन पे allocate हो गया, then second, then again एक और इवेंट आया, it got allocated over here followed by this. So if I have to do counting, then A, B, C, D, E, F and so on, which is not the intended approach what we want to do. We want US to handle all the events corresponding to the US region, India to India region and Europe region. For that, what we are going to do, we're going to pass in the key value for all the events corresponding to the US region, and in that key value there could be something which signifies that these have to go into the US partition cluster. Kafka cluster will create a hash of this US string, and then if the hash map matches, it will push onto the events into that particular cluster. For example, the first event comes, and in that event, the key happens to be US. A hash is generated for the string US. let's say u hash s, and correspondingly the information gets pushed onto the 0th partition. So event 1 e1 gets pushed over here. Now event 2 comes, and inside that event 2 again the us string is passed. Kafka cluster would again generate a hash u hash s. It could be any hashing algorithm, and since u hash s is generated, it matches with the previously generated hash. It goes on to the 0th partition. So it goes on to the 0th partition, e2. Now comes another event, E3, wherein the key passed happens to be India. The Kafka cluster will generate a hash for it, and this time it would be I hash n using some hashing algorithm. Since it doesn't match with the previously generated hash, what it's going to do, it's going to allocate this event onto a different partition, and the next partition in queue happens to be 1, and E3 goes over here. Now let's assume another event comes, which happens to be E4, and wherein the string passed happens to be Europe. Since it's Europe, a new hash is generated, and this hash will be different from the previously 2 generated hash. Therefore, the event will go on to partition 2. Now, there's another interesting thing that you should observe, that the events will always be ordered inside any partition. E1 would have happened before then E2. Similarly, all the subsequent events that are going to come inside this partition 0 will be later in time and in strict order. This is how Kafka provides you with the capability to support ordering of events which was not there in RabbitMQ and ActiveMQ. All these details, nobody is going to teach you in so much depth. Only someone who is a veteran of the industry can provide you with this guidance. I hope you are enjoying these concepts, guys. Moving on, let's have a look at the consumer side of it, which is pretty simpler than this. Let's focus all our attention onto the right part of the algorithm, that is the interaction between Kafka cluster with that of consumers. How does consumer pull out data, the events from the Kafka cluster? How does Kafka cluster manage कि किस partition का data किस consumer पे जाएगा, and what about the cases where one consumer goes down, still the Kafka cluster is able to load balance the data, the events present across different partitions appropriately without any data loss. ये सारा logic कैसे operate करता है? Let's see that live in action in great detail. The first and the foremost concept that you should be aware of while setting Kafka consumer is consumer groups. Consumer groups is a place where consumers reside, and those are created on the basis of single responsibility principle. That means all the consumers inside one particular consumer group will be responsible for doing one particular task, while the other will be created as and when needed for doing another task. Let's take one example. We have the topic for getting drivers updated location, and one purpose in your system could be logging, that you are logging this information every time the driver's location gets updated. The other purpose is sending out notifications about the driver's location to the rider. Notifications. What we are going to do, we are going to create two separate consumer groups, one for the purpose of logging and other one for the purpose of notifications. So let's create two big boxes, and inside these boxes we'll have consumers running. So we have one consumer running over here, one consumer running over here. And the interaction of these two consumer groups with the partition at the Kafka cluster will remain independent. तो इसको नहीं पता होगा कि इस कंज्यूमर का, दिस कंज्यूमर्स ने कितने इवेंट्स को प्रोसेस कर लिया, एंड इसको नहीं पता होगा कि इस द अदर कंज्यूमर हाउ मेनी इवेंट्स हैव बीन प्रोसेस्ड बाय दिस. So these two operate independently of one another. Since we have only 0th partition in our topic currently, how many consumers do we need inside the consumer group? We only need one consumer inside the consumer group. And this consumer will be responsible for pulling out events from the Kafka cluster and doing the processing internally, sending out acknowledgement that I have processed this event successfully. As and when the driver's location gets updated, location 1, location 2, location 3, location 4, it will pull out those events and do the logging. Similarly, the other consumer group notification will operate in parallel, pulling out these events and sending out the notifications to the rider. The crux here is these two consumer groups are not aware about one another, are operating in independence. Now let's increase the complexity a bit. Let's consider we have one consumer group where that is responsible for sending out notifications, and herein we have two partitions on the same topic. How many consumers do we need? How many consumers do we need? So let's go step by step. Let's assume we have only one consumer inside the notification system. How the system is gonna behave? When you ask Kafka cluster, fetch me the events, it's gonna give you the events from both these partitions, partition 0 and partition 1. Understood? Now, it is not a very good approach to handle. Why not to have separation of concerns inside the consumer groups? What I'm trying to say, let's bring in another consumer inside the notification consumer group, and the behavior of Kafka cluster is gonna change. This time, as and when a new consumer group got added, Kafka cluster is very intelligent. What it's gonna do, it's gonna allocate one consumer to one partition. That means this zeroth partition will be handled by this particular consumer, and the first partition will be handled by this particular consumer. This is the beauty of Kafka. At any instant of time, if either of these consumer group go down by any virtue, what is going to happen? There will be no data loss. Kafka cluster will automatically send out all the remaining notifications to the other consumer which is still active. The key takeaway here is the Kafka cluster will always aim for uniform distribution among the available consumers of a particular consumer group. अगर एक होगा तो एक पे सारा लोड चला जाएगा, अगर दो होंगे और दो पार्टीशन है तो यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाएगा. Now a very valid question that must be coming to your mind would be, what about the case where there are three consumers present inside the consumer group and there are only two partitions? Now, how will be the behavior of Kafka cluster? In such scenarios, the third cluster will stay idle because एक partition को distribute नहीं करा जा सकता among separate consumers. As a result of which, the third consumer will act as a backup only when either of these two will go down, the third one will come into picture. The Kafka cluster is super intelligent. It keeps track of what is happening inside each consumer group, which consumer is malfunctioning, which consumer is dying, which consumer has been added into the consumer group. And I'll make sure that we walk through each and everything that I'm talking right now through the code as well, through the terminal as well, and make you see how beautiful is Kafka. तो आ जाओ एक और सिनेरियो assume करते हैं wherein we have a topic where there are three partitions 0, 1 and 2. Now we have a consumer group wherein there are only two consumers running, consumer A and consumer B. How is Kafka going to distribute the load among these two consumers A and B? What is going to happen? Kafka will assign A with 0 and 1 partition and B with second partition, because obviously एक को तो heavy lifting करनी ही पड़ेगी. One consumer has to do the heavy lifting of managing two partitions at the same point of time. The key takeaway here is one partition cannot be distributed among two different consumers operating in a consumer group. What I'm trying to say, that this zeroth partition can never be the case that it is getting split between two consumers available inside a consumer group. तो ऐसा नहीं होगा कि half of the events will be processed over here for this particular partition and half of the events will be processed over here. Never be the case. However, one consumer can handle load from multiple partitions, as in this particular case where A is handling load of 0th and first partition. Rest everything will be handled by Kafka cluster, but yes, you should know how things are operating on Kafka cluster side. Load balancing, load management. It's very beautiful. It's simple for the developers, but yes, conceptually, you should be aware of it. I hope you enjoyed the consumer's concept. Now it's time to get our hands dirty with Kafka. Let's go ahead and install it out. From our prerequisite knowledge, we know Zookeeper is essential for running Kafka. Yes, it is essential, but currently there are few builds where Zookeeper is not needed. Those are more advanced Kafka versions. But for now, let's understand that version of Kafka where Zookeeper is needed and is universally accepted by the industry. For this, you need to go to zookeeper.apache.org and download the Apache version depending upon your system configuration. It's a straightforward process. The next step would be to install Kafka. You need to go to kafka.apache.org and in download the latest Kafka version. You need to unzip it out and now you are in the Kafka folder. I have created a list of steps that I need to do so as to run the Kafka server. The first one is to run Zookeeper because it's a prerequisite for Kafka. So let's go ahead and write in terminal to run the Zookeeper. The Zookeeper has started. Now I'll go ahead and run the Kafka server. Let me copy paste this command. And my Kafka server is up and running. Awesome. So let me just minimize these tabs and let's bring in more tabs for better understanding where we'll be running different commands. The first command, the area of creation for us would be to create a topic. So the command here is this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this with a dummy topic. So let's write dummy topic over here. Dummy topic. And let's copy paste it out and run this command. So topic has been successfully created. Pretty good. Let's go ahead and see if we can publish something on this topic or not. Debugging pro tip. Another way to validate whether your topic has been created in Kafka or not is to use the describe command. If I go ahead and write this out, I'll get all the details of my topic, the name of the topic, the ID of the topic, which is very crucial for Kafka to manage it out, the partition count, which is 1, the application factor, which is again 1. It is giving me the details for my 0th partition. Partition is 0, leader is 0, replicas is 0, and so on. Now let's go ahead and list what all partitions have I created in my system. So there is another command for it, which happens to be the listing command, which is often helpful in the debugging process. So you can see 3 topics have been created: driver location updates with 2 partitions, and dummy topic. If I go ahead and describe driver location updates, I'll get a similar response as for dummy topic. So let's do that once as well. And let me just go ahead and describe it out for you. Again, I got the topic ID, I got the partition count, I got the replication factor. Now let's try some more interesting things wherein I'm gonna push some events onto the Kafka cluster. And here is my data. I have a Pojo wherein I have the driver ID, the latitude, the longitude, and the timestamp at which this driver was present at this particular location. What I'm going to do, I'm going to publish an event onto the Kafka cluster, and the topic for me would be driver location updates. So I'll be using that further in the video to help you understand. So that means the command has been executed and the event has been pushed onto Kafka. But wait a second, I haven't created anything to consume the events out. So let's go ahead and write the consumer command. And you can see I got 2 events. If I go ahead and push another event, and let me change something in this, the driver ID has been changed to 2435. You'll see I got the event. As soon as I push data in my Kafka cluster for this particular topic ID, I'm getting the details immediately. So I got this driver ID. Now if I go ahead and push something else, again, I'll get those messages. I got another message. Let's go ahead and create a consumer belonging to a consumer group. Guys, I haven't told you about single consumers without any group. I'll share the details in some time, but let's first focus our attention onto consumers with a group, which we talked about in the presentation as well. So let me go ahead and copy paste this command. It says that please create a consumer, please add a consumer in my consumer group name driver location consumer, play the events from the beginning, and the topic on which I want to listen the events is driver location updates with 2 partitions. So let's go ahead and copy paste it out, and let me just run it over here. I have stopped the previous execution, and these are like the previously executed events that I'm getting. So you can ignore them for some time since I had that annotation hyphen from the beginning. Now let's go ahead and write the command to publish the event. This is the payload that I want to publish the event with, and I'm telling Kafka producer that this is the URL on which I want to make the publish call. The topic would be driver location updates with 2 partitions, and the property here that I'm specifying is the key separator. On the basis of the key, this decision will be made, and where this key will be picked from, this particular location 1. So Kafka internally generates a hash of it. We are aware of it, and on the basis of this, the 0th partition will be chosen. So let's go ahead and publish the data. Let's write something different so that you guys get to know about that the content is different, let's write 29 over here. So as you can see, 29 came over here as soon as I published the data. Now let's go ahead and publish the data on the second partition. Remember, we only have one consumer running. That means when I'll hit the enter statement, this event will also come in this particular consumer. So let's write 30 over here. And you can see the second event for the driver ID2 also came in the same consumer. That means in the current configuration, we only have one consumer running and it is listening to the event from both the partitions. Awesome. Now let's create another consumer in parallel. So let me write the same command again and let's create another consumer in parallel belonging to the same group, driver location consumer, and the same topic, driver location updates, with two partitions, and let's play the events from the beginning. Let's go ahead and do that. So it has been created, and now let's push events on both the partition 1 and 2. We have two consumers running currently, and let's try and see how Kafka internally handles and load balances data between these two consumers. So when I'll go ahead and write the event for this particular driver ID2, and let's replace the latitude data to 33, where the information is coming. The information came over here to the newly created consumer that we created. It didn't come over here, which was previously handling the load for both of them. It has been load distributed. Let's write and publish an event on the partition 1. Let me just change the details to 78. You will see that this information came over here. It is load balancing. Kafka is load balancing the data. The driver ID1 didn't come over here. It came over here. Isn't it awesome? Yeah, it is. This is the power of Kafka, guys. Now let's go ahead and stop one consumer. So let me just stop this particular consumer. Let's see how Kafka behaves. And let me just push the data, update the data so that you can see there is some difference. The payload here says driver ID 1 and latitude is 8080. Let me just push the data again for the driver ID, for partition 2, driver ID 2, and let's update this to 90. It came over here. So Kafka is super intelligent. All the events are now handled by this particular consumer since this one stopped. मजा आया ना देख के गाइस, इसको प्लीज ट्राई कर लेना. Your concept will solidify so good that it's gonna stay with you forever. Another interesting command of Kafka, complete state of consumers. So if I go ahead and write this command where I want to get the details for my consumer group, it will show how many consumers are running in this particular group and what are the offsets, how many events have been processed by them. So let's go ahead and run this command. When I'll run this command, I'll see that I have two consumers that were running corresponding to this particular group, consumer group, and the current offset is 20. The current offset for this is 23. This is a log end offset. I'll share more details about this, but these are like internal abstractions of Kafka. We have the consumer ID as this, host this, and this corresponds to partition 0, this corresponds to partition 1 when they were alive. एक और बहुत interesting चीज रह गई which I didn't talk in the presentation. The consumers can still exist without a group. कैसे अभी दिखाता हूँ. So this is a command to create a consumer that runs independently without being in any association of a consumer group. And let's try and run it out. So let me create another terminal and let's go to CD downloads, Kafka 3.7 source, and let's run another consumer. So it has started to run since I quoted from beginning. And let's see what happens. We have two consumers running. One is this one, which is part of the consumer group, and this one is not part of the consumer group. So let's publish some events onto it. And here I have put 99 ID2, driver ID2, partition 2. You can see the event came over here. The event also came over here. Now let's add another consumer, which is part of the consumer group. So let's create that consumer again. Let's make it active again. And it is part of the driver location consumer group. I have made it active. You will see that now when I'll publish the payload 1, one will come over here and one will also come over here. One came over here, one came over here. One wasn't there. So consider in the consumer group, uh, driver location consumer. Two consumers are running, which are these two, and we have another consumer running independently uh, without any association to the consumer group, and it will get all the events on this particular topic. What are the drawbacks of this approach? The drawbacks of this approach is that in case this consumer goes down, there's no reliance since it's not part of the consumer group. No load balancing can ever happen. So I don't recommend anyone to create consumers without any consumer group. This is the takeaway, which only experience can tell you. So whatever were the advantages of consumer groups, you won't get those. And if you will create consumers without consumer groups, suppose you have created 10 such consumers, those will operate independently of one another, which I don't recommend at all. Let's proceed ahead with the video. And I have been talking a lot. Talk is cheap, man. Let's walk you through the code. Honestly, I get the real kick when I see the code, when I deep dive into it, when I understand it fully, and when I build something out of it on my own. Otherwise, YouTube pay on there are multiple sources where people have talked about Kafka. You will not find us even a single source where Kafka is being talked about end to end, including the nuances of Kafka from HLD perspective, from LLD perspective. And today I want to show you the quality that an experienced developer can only teach you. Here in my GitHub repo, I have created a new repo for Kafka wherein both the codes for the consumer and the publisher are mentioned, that too from the industry level standards. तो इसको जाकर देखो and we will deep dive into each one of them. Also, I believe you are watching this video till this far. I have a homework for you which I'll talk about once I explain the code, the basic code for publisher and consumer both. And उसको जरूर करना, उसी से you will get the real kick and you will be able to solidify your understanding. A very humble request to all of you. You can raise the PR over here for the homework that I'm giving you, and I will review your code. This is my promise to all of you. Let's have a look at the magic from the publisher side first. So it's very important for you to understand the folder hierarchical structure if you want to write industry level code. What have I done over here is under the source main Java folder, I have created my package name as com.codingdecoded Sanchit Kafka publisher, under which I have created subfolders, one for configuration, one for controller, one for model, and one for service. Make sure every time you code something in your life, this structure gets followed. Along with this, I have created the configuration for my publisher to act appropriately. I'll be walking you through that logic. Along with this, to help you understand it better, I have created a dummy API wherein in my controller layer, a post API call will be made to update the location of the driver, and an event internally will be published onto Kafka. Similar to what we also talked in the example of Uber, that as the driver location gets updated, events are sent out to the publisher through the Uber service. So the client application will make an API call to the Uber service. Uber service internally will publish this information onto Kafka. So I have built the same Uber service which is responsible for publishing the driver's event location updates onto Kafka. So here is my API. It's working on my localhost 8080 port, and the API path is update location. The method type is post. I have a payload that goes in the body since it's a post call with driver ID, longitude, latitude, and a timestamp at which the driver with this particular ID was at this particular location. Seems pretty simple and straightforward. Now let's go back to the algorithm that I have written for this. But even jumping deep into it, let me tell you few configurations file that you must do in order to make sure that your publisher acts appropriately. Let's focus all our attention onto the application properties files that I have created. Here's my name of the Spring application, which is Uber driver update location Kafka publisher. Let's focus our attention onto Kafka producer settings, which are important. So when you'll create a Kafka instance of your dev stage or production environment, you'll get a URL. Since I'm running it on my local, I have it running on my localhost 9092 port, and therefore I specified this port ID. Along with this, I need to specify the topic name on which I want to publish the events. And usually these topic names and configurations must always stay in application properties. Pro tip, never hard code them in your code logic as a constant, because any day you might have to change it. Then it becomes very seamless to replace it in the application properties. I specified the property key as Kafka bootstraps Kafka topic driver location. and driver location updates is my actual value. There are a few additional settings of Kafka, which I'll talk about in some time, but for now, let's ignore those out. Let's move ahead and look at the configuration file for producer that I have created with annotation at the rate configuration. It's a standard annotation of Spring Boot that I believe you are aware of. What do? I have extracted the Bootstrap servers over here, and inside I have created a bean for producer factory, wherein all these settings related to your producer, the publisher will stay. What are those settings? One is the Bootstrap server information. It's a config map kind of a thing that I have created. It's a key serializer thing. I'm using a string serializer for serializing the key, and the value serializer, which is also a string serializer for serializing the value. It is very similar that we use in Redis as well. I have talked about it in my previous videos. If you haven't seen it, here is a link. You can go and check it out. I have created a default Kafka producer factory using this configuration. So I get the producer factory instance, and whatever configuration I have provided over here gets it in it. Along with this, you need another bean. What is that bean? For Kafka template. And it's not very difficult. It's a very simple statement. I'm creating a new instance of Kafka template, and I pass in this producer factory instance that I have just created above. Spring will automatically make sure that it is singleton in nature. Along with this, I have created a model class, which is in short a DTO class for receiving the request body. Also, I'm using the same DTO for pushing the event onto my Kafka producer in my event payload to the Kafka cluster. It has four properties: driver ID, latitude, longitude, and timestamp. You can keep timestamp in long as well. It really doesn't matter. I just showcased it for an example. But I believe a long would be better for timestamps. Let's go ahead and look at the controller layer, and let me add a debug pointer over here. So let's make the API call. I'm using the Uber ID, the driver ID as Uber 12500, and let's change it to something 09. And the location, the latitude, longitude, and the date. So let's go ahead and hit the button. The control comes over here. It's making an API call. It's invoking the service location, a publisher service, published location, and I have the payload, the entire payload that was received in the API call. It has all those four properties. And I can see those properties. The driver ID is UB12509. And let's go deep into it. What it's basically doing, it is extracting the key, which is the driver ID. It is extracting the value of the entire payload, and it is sending this information using an auto-wide instance of Kafka template. So what have I done over here? I have created a location publisher service, marked it with added service annotation, injected the auto-wide instance of Kafka template. I have also created an object mapper. You can put this in producer configs as well and use an auto-wide instance over here. Going ahead, what have I done? In the publish location method, I am receiving the location of the driver. I'm using the key as my driver ID, the value of the entire payload stringified, and I'm sending this onto this particular topic, which has been set in my application properties, which happens to be driver location updates. And along with this, the payload will be sent as key value pair. So let's move ahead, and you can see the ID, the key happens to be UB12509. The value happens to be the entire payload in stringify format. And then let's make the API call. So we have topic, key, and value, which is important. Now, let's see whether we actually got something in our consumers or not. But wait, I forgot to create the consumer. Let's go ahead and create the consumer using the commands that we talked about in the previous section. So this is a command to create the consumer. The topic I'm using is driver location updates. So let's play the event starting from beginning, and let's see whether that event would come up or not. So we have UB12509, which came in, which was expected. And just to try a few more things out, let's make another call. And this time I'm going to make the call for driver ID 125. The date today is 6th May. So let's write 6 over here. And in my terminal, I can see that driver ID 125 has been received. That means my publisher is able to publish the events onto Kafka, and my consumer is able to consume those events out. I hope you understood the logic from a publisher's perspective. From the publisher side, there's just one aspect left. the property which I talked about in the initial section, the optional properties related to publishing side of Kafka. And two of them are really important. The first one is Kafka producer retries, which here I have specified as 3. It means that the Kafka SDK will take care of making 3 attempts in case there's a network glitch, in case there is a connection timeout error, in case there is a read timeout error, before actually saying that the event cannot be pushed. So ऐसे सोचो, due to unforeseen reasons, there could be cases where there is network glitch or the Kafka cluster is not available, the Kafka broker is not there. In those such cases, Kafka SDK producer will internally handle this and make 3 valid attempts before saying a failure case. The next property in question is Spring Kafka producer.ax, which is acknowledgement. And I set this value to 1. There are 3 possible values for it: 0, 1, and all. So 0 means that Kafka will not be concerned if the leader or any broker has acknowledged that it has received the event or not. It is more or like fire and forget. So the Kafka producer is trying to make an API call onto Kafka cluster, and it will not wait for acknowledgement to be received from any of the broker, and it will operate in fire and forget mode. It is not concerned about whether the brokers have actually acknowledged that they have received the events or not. It's not very healthy for transactional kind of data since it's fire and forget. The value 1 means the leader in the broker, the master in the broker, will send out the acknowledgement back onto the caller, the Kafka publisher, that hey, I have received this event and now I'm going to take care of it. You don't need to worry about anything. Since the acknowledgement is only be concerned from the leader, the master, it's also not very healthy for transaction related data. The last one, which is all, it means that the replicas and the master all should send out the acknowledgements back to the caller saying that, hey, we all have received the event. Now you don't need to do anything. We will gracefully handle it by ourselves. This is the best one that should be set for transactional related data for any banking related stuff. I hope you liked it. The next 2 properties are straightforward. Batch size is related to how many events can be published in a single batch, and buffer memory, how many memory it's gonna take for the in-flight events. Let's focus our attention onto the consumer side of it. It is simpler than the publisher side because most of the things will be controlled by Kafka annotations. I have created a similar structure as I created in publisher. We have source, main, Java, com, coding decoded, Sanchit, Kafka consumer, wherein I have created 2 folders. The first one is consumer, rider notification service. So this consumer is responsible for notifying the rider about a driver's location in real time. This is the main logic that I have written inside it, which will be responsible for sending out those notifications. And I have created a model class. The model class is exactly the same as I mentioned in the publisher side of it. Driver ID, latitude, longitude, and timestamp. Kafka consumer application. I'm building a Spring Boot application. Therefore, I made this with Spring Boot application annotation. And I can start the server out. But before that, let's walk through a few properties that I should be specifying from the consumer side of it to operate correctly. So the first one is Kafka Bootstrap servers, on which URL are we communicating with the Kafka cluster. So this is the localhost URL running at port 9092. The name of the Kafka topic, driver location updates, same one as I mentioned in the publisher side of it. Now we have properties related to consumer config. The first one is Kafka consumer bootstrap servers. Again, it will point to this property itself, localhost 9092. The next property, which is the area of interest for us, is group ID. We know the group ID concept. And what should I mention over here? I think I should mention rider notifications, because we are sending out notifications to the rider about the driver's location. The next one we have is deserializer, the key deserializer. We have serializer in the publisher, deserializer over here, and it is again string deserializer. The value serializer is again a string deserializer. And the important property which I want you to know is consumer auto offset reset. And here I have specified the value to earliest. That means from the beginning, whatever events were there will be deep. The other possible value for this property offset reset happens to be latest. That means starting the timestamp of the creation of the consumer, all the events that will be published afterwards will be received by this consumer. Those that happened in the past before the creation of the consumer will be ignored, since those were past events. So latest and earliest. These are the 2 possible values. I'm running the server port to be 8081 since 8080 is already occupied by my publisher side. Now let's go ahead and hit the run button. my server will restart. Also, another thing that I should be talking about would be rider notification service. So in this, I have created a consume method. So first of all, I have created rider notification service annotated with service annotation standard of Spring Boot. I have created an instance of object mapper, but let's focus our attention onto the consume method. In the consume method, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna annotate this with Kafka listener annotation, and it needs two parameters. The first one is the topic on which I want to listen this consumer at, and its group ID. So we specified the group ID in two properties, Spring Kafka in the property Spring Kafka consumer group ID, and the topic has been specified under Kafka topic driver location present in my application configs. So both of these properties are there, pretty good. And inside the consume method, what I'm doing, I'm extracting the key, I'm extracting the record value, and I'm casting the value into driver location class, which is my Pojo. I am logging this information out, and I have created notify rider about it, which is just logging for now. In real-time application, this would be actually sending out push notifications through webhooks or web sockets onto the client mobile applications or any other application for that matter, and notify shared users. Those would be the cases where I'm sharing my drive details with my father or mother or my friends. In those cases, these are the two things that are going to happen. So I'm sure that you guys would be excited to run this out. So let's go ahead and see the magic. Let's make the publish call, and the publisher call will be made. It has been made, and let's see whether I got the notification on my consumer side. Yes, I got the notification UB125. Let's do it once more, guys. अच्छा लगता है. Let's update UB to 999 and date to probably 5th of May. And when I hit the button, let's also add a debug pointer over here to actually see whether I'll receive the event or not. Yes, I got the event, and the event record, I'll see the key as UB999, and my record value would be there. It will log this information. Along with that, it will notify the writer and the notify shared users. Isn't it good? This brings me towards the end of the video. And before signing off, I believe I'm able to reciprocate all the knowledge that I have with respect to Kafka onto you guys. So guys, अगर अच्छी लगी video, so please go ahead and like, subscribe to the channel. It requires hell lot of effort to create videos like this, and I'll be really thankful if you do that. Along with this, those who have been viewing the video till this far, a very humble request. Go and check out the GitHub repo, understand each and every line that I have written in Kafka Consumer, Kafka Publisher, so that you know the concept end to end. And any day, starting today, up till your lifetime, if someone go ahead and ask you Kafka question in any interview, you'll be able to answer them in few fraction of seconds. Another thing that I want you to do is, this is our homework task. You need to create a GitHub pull request wherein you need to update the configuration to support partitions, and the partition count, let's say, would be 4 from the publisher side, and from the consumer side, I need 3 consumers. Would you be able to do that? Guys, good luck. Best wishes with you. Along with this, if you want to increase the complexity a bit, create more consumer groups for different purpose, similar to what I showed in the Uber example, where we have a logging consumer group, we have a notification consumer group. Try to build something like that. Once you are done with coding it out and trying it from both publisher and subscribers end, consumers end, you raise the pull request onto the Sanchit Kafka GitHub repo, and I promise I'll review it out from the industry perspective. So एक बार review करके देखो कितनी improvements you'll feel the way you write code and way the industry expects you to write the code, especially in an interview or somewhere if you're preparing for. Till then, take care. I hope you enjoyed the session, guys, and I'll see you very soon with another video on some interesting topic. Bye bye. Have a great day ahead.